Walking these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for life, voices true, St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Share the gospel, hear the call, that is what we do at St. James.
Well, welcome to our 75th anniversary conversations. We're here today with John and Betty Willman. And you guys have been here quite some time. So how did you get here and why did you get here?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Marion and then went.
Oh, you did? I noticed that.
And was raised Lutheran, and so then I went to Ball State, and that's where we met. And Betty's from Northwest Indiana. And then when we graduated, the summer after we graduated, we got married and moved to Southern Indiana for our first jobs, and taught down there for 10 years. And I had a really good program. I was a high school band director with a really successful program. And you know, you talk about how God can use difficult situations. And they had a big budget deficit and laid off a bunch of people. And this was based upon age. And I was still one of the younger people in the corporation. So I got laid off. And so we're looking for jobs that spring. And was able to find a job here in Grant County and decided, well, you know, that'd be great to move back home because we had 3 little kids at that point. Our oldest daughter was in kindergarten that last year in Southern Indiana. And so they were excited to move back home and be close to Grandma and Grandpa. And then it also worked out that I knew at that point that I wanted to get back to school and finish my administrative degree. And of course, that's before they had online learning and distance learning. So I had to go back to campus to get all my night classes and summer classes. So that was convenient that way too. So we moved back to Grant County and got acclimated. And after some time, decided with the age of our kids that, and we had always gone to a Missouri Synod Lutheran Church when we were in Southern Indiana. And we're very comfortable with that. And, you know, Betty and I have talked a lot that we wanted our kids to have a good Sunday education time and be around a lot of other youth. And St. John's had an excellent youth program at that age.
St. James.
St. James, I'm sorry. Thank you.
St. John's is where we went. That was John's home congregation.
Okay, so you didn't grow up in this congregation. You went to St. John's.
I went to St. John's. And at that time, you know, they had gone back in the 80s, you know, the history that the different Lutheran denominations and the ALC, they had merged. And we had, like I said, we had been very comfortable with the Missouri Synod and their doctrine. And so this was a very good fit for us to come back and get situated with St. James at that time. So that's how we got back here. And it was just a real blessing that God used those opportunities for us. So
now, what year did you come back in?
89.
Well, we came back to Marion in 89 and moved over here to St. James in the early 90s and talked John's folks into coming with us.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So
now, what did you come from a Lutheran background?
No. I was baptized Methodist. I was confirmed Presbyterian.
Oh, wow.
And then when we went to college, I had started going to the campus ministry, the Lutheran campus ministry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then John and I met. And
so you met through campus ministry then?
No. He wasn't going to that campus ministry.
Oh, he was going to...
No. So we met at Ball State and got married, and everywhere we lived in Southern Indiana, Missouri Synod was our only choice.
Oh, really?
So that's the only kind of Lutheran church I'd ever been.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So it was important to us when we knew we needed to go somewhere. So our kids, they needed somebody other than their mom to be their Sunday school teacher.
Oh, sure.
And I felt that was important too. So, the Lutheran doctrine was important to us.
Sure.
And that's where we wanted to find that home.
Oh, okay.
So
what roles and jobs have you had here in the church?
Well, go ahead. You can be first.
I think the first thing I did here was they talked me into teaching confirmation.
Oh, that's right. You told me
So
that.
I taught confirmation for many, many years, and Phil was the DCE then, and it was rigorous. I mean, the kids had 2 full years of confirmation instruction. They had a written exam they had to pass, and lots of memorization, but pretty similar to now. They did a banner and that sort of thing. But I had a great time with those confirmands, and Pastor Carlson and I would take them on little retreats to Rainbow Christian Camp. It would just be he and I and all those kids.
Oh my gosh.
Everywhere, out there. We did have a good time, and we would have lock-ins just for them, just for the junior high kids. And and that's my least favorite age to teach in public school. And that's what I used to say, 2 hours a week, that's about all I can handle, the middle school crowd. But they were, and I had so many special groups. And, I'd have a year where it'd be all boys.
Oh, wow.
And those were the most challenging years were those. So, and I've taught Sunday school in lots of different positions there, and we've been in choir. We started an Awana group.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yes, but we realized, because I taught the lessons, and they are not a Lutheran group.
No, they're not, no.
So for many years we stayed with Awana, and I would just rewrite the lessons. And then we finally decided, this is kind of silly. So that's when we changed it to JAM, Jesus and Me.
Oh, right.
And we still did Wednesday nights, and that has kind of morphed into what we offer on Wednesday night for kids now.
Right.
So I've been in VBS. Just this, that, and the other thing, I guess.
Sure.
Well, and I've been involved in various things. Of course, I've always enjoyed the men's ministry and those opportunities. I was an elder for a period of time and enjoyed that. But Betty and I both had some health issues over the last several years, and so decided I need to step away from that because of those concerns. Yeah, just, and I I'll still play my trumpet from time to time, and we laugh that, next week is Ash Wednesday coming up, so it's time for me to get my trumpet out of the closet and start practicing, because at my age now, it takes me a good 6 weeks to get ready to play. So, and I always remember my son played trumpet, and he used to tease me. He said, "Dad, why the only place you're ever playing more is church?" And I said, "It's because they have to forgive me. If I don't play well, they'll pray it's a good crowd." So I hope the congregation remembers that on Easter.
That's funny. Now, you're also head of Family Life Ministry. We forgot about that.
Right, right. And before that, childhood ministry. That was a little bit different than the Christian education ministry.
Oh, okay.
But
I saw that.
Yeah, and basically that's what it was called when we still had preschool and daycare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that, since we don't have that now,
right.
I don't even know. We don't even really have that committee now.
No. I think that got absorbed into both education and family ministry.
Mm-hmm. That would make sense.
Yeah, I know when I saw the new Constitution, I came here. That page was titled, but it was blank.
It was blank.
Saying it was absorbed into that. So it makes sense.
Yep, that was a tough time.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
But, we were to the point, and, Pastor Miller, who was our interim at the time, said, God does not intend for every ministry you start to be forever.
Right.
That, and he said, sometimes that's the hardest, understanding when it's time to let something go, because we are creatures of habit.
Right.
Are we not?
Yeah, and I think Lutherans are really hard at letting things go.
Yeah.
We've been having that program for 50 years. Why is it bad now? Or why
right.
does it work
That's
now?
Well, we stopped, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a hard decision, but it was in retrospect, it was the decision that had to be made at that time.
Sure.
So
So, are there people that have had a positive influence on you or a big influence on you in the church?
Sure. Well, that's one thing that we enjoyed coming back here, that there are people here that have known me my whole lives,
Okay.
and seriously, that we've gone to church with since I was a kid. And it's enjoyable, that they saw you as, a silly little boy, and then, a precocious teenager, and then a young man, and middle-aged, and now, I'm getting up there in the years where I'm a grandfather myself now. And so it's fun to be able to catch up with those people and look at all the things that they have been through. So we're very blessed that we have a lot of people we've known for many, many years.
Yeah.
And you see the things that, the difficulties they've had in their life, and how they've handled it with God's help and the grace. And so that's been a very strong testimony to their faith walk.
Sure.
That I think that's very powerful to see those people that, have been at all different phases of their lives and how they've dealt with those challenges, because every age has its unique opportunities and challenges.
Sure.
And so that's been a real blessing for us. But no, my youth group directors growing up were Bill and Laura Pritchett and Dale and Anthony Anthonson. And of course, they were longtime members here.
Yeah.
So that's good to see them. Of course, Barb Strasser, her family and I, grew up together with Linda and her brothers and I. And so all those people, Don and Sigrid Welton were my next door neighbors when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
And I mentioned Trouble Parent. She teases me still when she hears me that she could still hear me practicing next door for many years. So Sigrid, I'm practicing for Easter. Be ready. But yeah, it's fun to see those people. And last night when we came in, the first people I saw were you and talking with Nancy. And I gave her a hug, and it was just so nice, to be able to put my arm around her and see somebody that's meant so much to me through my whole life. So that's meaningful to see those people. So we've talked a lot about, Joe Chambers, what a wonderful educator he was for years. He was our kids' principal, and we have so many fond stories about that, and what a good role model he was. And being in education, we would meet so many other people that would say, "Oh, you go to St. James with Joe Chambers?" Yeah. Oh yeah. And so your ministry goes so many different ways, with that. So
right.
So when I ask our kids, telling them that this interview was coming up, and I said, who was important to you? And all three of them said Phil Roselle.
Oh, okay.
And they all remember similar things. Phil was a very organized person. And my oldest daughter, she and her husband do a lot of travel only with carry-ons. They can be gone for 2 weeks, a carry-on, because that's what Phil made them do.
Oh.
When they went to National Youth Gathering, you only could have a carry-on. That was it.
So you wouldn't lose your luggage, right?
Right, and you didn't have to
Makes
wait
sense.
at the airport in luggage. But Aaron, our oldest, remembers how organized he was, and it didn't matter where they went. He knew exactly where they were going, how to get from point A to point B. And they all remember Phil's silly games that they would play in youth group, and he always gave great prizes, like a bookmark or a pencil or something like that. But all three of them commented what an influence he had on them. And I would appreciate him as a teacher, as a Sunday school teacher. I appreciated that organization, and that he always would sit down with us and go over any lessons that we wanted, some additional help. But that he was very, very, very helpful.
Well, and our son that is now a minister.
Yeah, Sean.
He and I talked a number of years ago that his story about Phil was when he joined a new congregation. And he would sit down and say, "No, we're doing VBS the Phil Roselle way." And he
Oh.
would laugh because they had a different way of doing it. He's like, "This isn't going to work. Here's the way I grew up going through VBS with Mr. Roselle, and this is the way we're going to run VBS." So, and those legacies have been passed on to other
Sure.
people now. So,
Sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Anybody else or?
Oh, I think through the whole music ministry here, that's we've had, regardless of what we were doing in the sanctuary, which service, I think the choir and whoever our organist was, that was. We spent a lot of time with those folks and trying to arrange special music, and we've had a myriad of different ways that we've done things over the years. Even at one point, I remember we had a committee and we were sitting down with the pastor and notes for the coming year and help plan the hymns and go that route. And, I know there are lots of folks that probably think there are lots of Lutheran hymns that are hard to sing, but it is what it is. And
Sure.
and they're, of course, those are my favorite, all those hymns, and they are different. It's just a different meter, and that's what, you see that notation, and that's what it is. It doesn't have a time signature, and that does make it difficult for, especially those who haven't grown up Lutheran. I can't even imagine how difficult that is for them to learn how to play those hymns.
Yeah, we've had that commented to us before, that if somebody coming from the outside going, these are really hard to play. And I went, of course, I'm not a musician, so I didn't know what that person was talking about. But I was like, I've had that comment. But.
And I always think we mentioned the men's ministry that, for years they had a very, very good softball team. And they would invite, the high school boys to come out and play with them. And so when our son was in high school, he and some of his buddies were playing. And that was just such a good mentorship, because it was just such a wonderful group of men.
Yeah.
And I always would joke with Betty that, our son was helped raised by the St. James Lutheran softball team. Because it was, you look at those men and they're just, they walk the walk. And that's one thing I think about so many people in our congregation. You look at the diverse backgrounds they have and their careers and those statuses, but you see them on Sunday and Monday through Saturday they're living the life the way they should too.
Right.
And that's such a powerful message, I think, to the next generation, that we have so many just wonderful, dedicated people here that have been such good role models for our family over the years.
For us as growing Christians every year, but also for our kids, because those gentlemen, they gave Sean so much. That was fun. And I always think that Larry did his part with Sean, but I don't know how many Saturdays I was sitting in the bleachers with the twins. That Larry'd have to bring the twins, so I'd have the twins, and I said, "You have Sean." So that was fun.
So, any interesting stories or anecdotes or funny things through the years?
Well, the one thing I was thinking about was, we enjoyed the fact that when my parents were getting up in years, I'd go over and pick them up for church when they had sold their home and moved into the retirement community. So I'd go pick them up, bring them to church. And growing up, we were back pew people. When I was a kid, and of course, I'm the youngest of four boys, so my parents probably thought, we're sitting back here with these four boys because I don't want them to embarrass the family being up front. But when we bring my parents, we'd sit up front because my father was so hard of hearing that he wanted to be up front. So we moved up to the very front of the church. So we'd sit in the pew, and the order of seating was my father would be on the end, then one of the kids, my mom, one of the kids, Betty, one of the kids, and then me. And that was our assigned seats every week. Well, the kids would argue over who got to sit between Grandma and Grandpa. And they would take turns. So people that would sit behind us for years and years would get such a kick out of these kids. And now they're teenagers. Now they go off to college, and they'd still come home on vacation, and they knew whose turn it was.
Oh my goodness!
To sit between Grandma and Grandpa. So one time, our daughters came home from college, and I think our oldest daughter sat between Grandma and Grandpa and visiting, and here comes Sean in to sit down, and he basically picks her up and makes her move because it was his Sunday to sit between Grandma and Grandpa. And they got such a kick out of the fact that here are these kids, and they're still saying, hey, I'm sitting between Grandma and Grandpa. You go sit by Dad. This is my spot. And so, there's little things like that, those little traditions and fun things that, you can kind of see the family dynamics that way. But, we just had so many fond memories and then we'd bring my folks back to our house for lunch, and Betty would always fix something that she knew my parents would enjoy, would be a treat for them, and then you'd fix a dessert to send home, for the week for my dad, because he developed such a sweet tooth late in life. And so the kids always got to see that everything was centered around, what Grandma and Grandpa wanted to do, but boy, they just thought that was the best thing ever, getting to be between Grandma and Grandpa. And so you'd pass that on. And then we were talking about the men's ministry and Larry. Well, for years, the Wilkes would sit across the aisle from us with the Hammackers. And Ron Hammaker, and of course, was in education, and he was assistant superintendent to my folks because my dad had served on the Marion School Board back in the late 60s, early 70s when Ron was assistant superintendent. So they knew each other well, and Ron was a phenomenal golfer for many, many years. So my dad had gotten into collecting logo golf balls. So occasionally Ron would come in with logo golf balls he'd found and other people would give him, and he'd give them to my dad to add to his collection. So this one Sunday we're sitting in church, and Ron reaches across the aisle, hands these to Larry, and Larry passes them across the aisle to my dad, a big bag of logo golf balls. So here are these two old golfers just chuckling and looking at golf and talking, and pastor's trying to get service started, and they're talking. Of course, my dad came here, so he's talking loud. The whole congregation my mother was so embarrassed. But we're starting the service talking about logo golf balls, and the women are just, the two old golfers, they don't care. They're just having a good time. So, but he had quite the collection, and he had all sorts of people that would, give him golf balls and bring him to church and pass them around the congregation to him. So,
one story that Katie reminded me of is we would go camping with the church camping group. And one year we ended up in Brown County with the Hells Angels.
Oh, wow.
So that made quite an impression on the kids. And that's what Katie said. I've never seen so much leather and so many tattoos. And they got in the pool with all of us too, and that made quite an impression too. But we did have a wonderful time with the camping group.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm. That's funny. Has anybody told you about us taking a mission trip to New York City?
No,
I didn't think so. So Brian Israel and I were talking about it because I had memories. But it's been 1996 and 97, and it had been too long, and I thought, I need somebody to help me. So my daughter Erin went with us, and we were in Queens. I don't know what the connection was, if Pastor Carlson knew that pastor, but George Emmerich went. He drove one of the vans, So I was in his van, and we had to go to New Jersey before we went to New York City because Diane is Jewish, raised Jewish, and I can't remember if it was a cousin or her brother who had died, and she'd never gotten to see the grave. So George decided we were going to that cemetery and we were going to find that grave. And by the grace of God, we did, because I don't remember him knowing where it was at all.
Oh, wow.
So, that's kind of a daunting thing, but we did that. So we were there for, I don't know, about a week, I think.
Oh, wow.
So we all stayed with congregation members, and we would do ministry work during the day at the parks.
Oh.
And it was explained to us, most of those folks living right in New York City are in apartments. So if they want relief from the heat or whatever, they're going to come to the park.
Oh, okay.
So we would be in one park during the day and another park in the evening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. I remember it being an absolutely wonderful time. My oldest daughter that went with us, Erin, said she was uncomfortable the entire time we were there.
Sure.
It just made her uncomfortable. But we took a day and went downtown. We saw the Twin Towers.
Oh, wow.
Because that was before
Right.
Before 9/11, of course. And Erin had been there on a school trip earlier this summer. So we were going to drive downtown. She said, no, we need to park and take the subway.
Oh.
And we listened to her. She was, going into freshman year in high school. But we did. So that was fun. Some of the tutors went on that trip, and we're going to have to see who else we can remember that went.
Now, what did you do in the parks?
Oh, we had some people dress up as clowns and would do little vignettes, and we had other little, and we would pass out things and talk to people. I mean, the park at night, there were lots of Hispanics there, and I can remember I would go over and talk to them in Spanish, and my Spanish was better 30 years ago than it is today, which was good. But we'd have a little thing set up, and kind of like a stage, I'm remembering, or maybe the stage was there. We'd do different scenes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
It is interesting.
It was fun. Just something very different. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Any other stories you can think of?
I don't think so. I'm trying to think of.
Well, are there any significant changes that you've seen in the church through the years you've been here?
Oh, I would say normal changes.
Oh.
When you have a change in pastor, we're going to have changes.
Sure.
You and I have talked about that, and I always relate it to John being a band director. You're not going to go in, or you shouldn't. Probably it's not wise to go in and change everything immediately.
No.
Until you figure out, why do they do it that way?
Right.
But I think over the years, as we've had changes in pastors, we've seen natural changes that come, maybe a slightly different focus in different areas, or, we've had some worship style changes, but honestly, overall, that has not been significant to me. And as long as we have the liturgical service, you can do whatever else you want, I guess. But that's important to me. I mean, we've tried it different ways, different times, and I know that I've heard a few people talk about, is it time for us to go to one service? And I thought, that's not mine to decide. But you know how that goes when you have folks that really enjoy that blended service.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's not a ton of difference between our services.
Right.
Other than 3 or 4 songs. That's about it.
Right. Yeah. I know I've dealt with that too before of congregation going, well, we don't see each other when we go to one service, but all the studies they've done is that even if you have room for that, you just lose people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it is, and a lot of people, some people like blended, but some people like purely traditional, and so they don't want any of that. And then some people want purely contemporary, I did blended for a number of years in other places, and you always have that tension of I want more hymns, I want more contemporary music, and the joke is it makes everybody happy, makes everybody mad. Yeah. So I kind of like the fact that we do have 2 different services, and
I think people like it too.
Yeah, and with my music background, this always tickles me because people say, "Well, what's the best kind of music?" Well, what you like, because everyone has different opinions on style, and there's no right or wrong answer to that. And there's different ways to worship and praise the Lord.
Right.
And so there are people that like the total Lutheran hymnals and liturgical service, and there's people that prefer the blended or the contemporary music, and that's fine. Those are not right or wrong answers. That's just personal preference. So I'm glad that we are able to try to meet everyone's needs and expectations, but we need to be respectful of other people
Yeah.
and their viewpoints and
Right.
their taste, because that's all it is. It's your personal likes and taste. So the only thing I always emphasize is I like things to be well done.
Right.
So if, regardless of what your style you prefer, let's put on our Sunday best.
Right.
Because we're here to honor and praise God as well as to worship Him. So we need to do our best with that. So that's my only take. And whatever your preferences are, let's just not wing it. Let's do a good job.
Yeah.
Whatever we're going to do, because we're there to honor and praise God.
Yeah.
I just feel like what a blessing Phil has been.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about God providing for your needs, for the needs of this congregation, because we kind of were on the struggle bus.
We were.
Yeah, I mean, after Sue died, and we've gone through, and it's hard. You know how hard it is to find someone that is a very good keyboardist, whether it's piano, organ, electronic, however that is. Add that to the difficulty in the Lutheran liturgy for some to catch on to that. And I mean, I think we're all just totally amazed that Phil just kind of dropped out of nowhere here.
He did. He retired in California as a pastor, and I think it said in one other podcast, thankfully his wife grew up here.
Yes.
And he said to her, well, I'll live wherever you want to live. And she said, I'll go back home. And so like, okay. And so, we're really happy about that. And he's got a lot of knowledge and a lot of guidance, even especially like in the contemporary, of where we should go and what we shouldn't do and stuff like that. And there's been some struggles in the contemporary world in general of okay, we'll do contemporary music, but what are we going to do and what are we not going to do? And there's been some pretty big changes in Missouri Senate, where Missouri Senate's went, we're looking for more Lutheran theology, and so Phil's hooked us up with that consortium at Concordia College Irvine that's writing contemporary Lutheran hymns, and he's writing some, and our newest freshman in college member who plays guitar is writing music too, Will, and we're thankful for him as well. And so,
it's good to see that forward movement, and gosh, just what a blessing for him to come.
Any other changes or note? Well, I just think that we've talked before, and other people have talked, as the congregation, ages, and we have different needs, and the community has different needs, we need to continue to look, for those things. But then it's, you can't look back and say, well, remember, so many years ago, we got to continue to look forward. But as I mentioned, I think with so many people we know so well, they witness to our community day in and day out. And that's, to me, the ministry that will continue. So we're celebrating 75 years. We hope that another 75 years from now that they're doing a similar type of program for St. James. But what that will look like, who knows? We trust God will provide. And as long as we have people here living their life faithfully and serving God every day, He'll take things in the right direction for us.
Sure. So how has St. James impacted your faith walk?
I think St. James has been that steady rock. For the entire time we've been here, we've had wonderful mentors. I love to teach Sunday school, but I really do enjoy being in Sunday school.
Oh, yeah.
As well. That's the majority of the time we've been here, I've taught Sunday school of some sort. So this last year with Nathan teaching, I've truly enjoyed that. And we have so many strong people of faith here. And that I think that encourages us all and helps our faith grow.
Well, it's interesting too that, I've been in, throughout my career, in leadership roles, and then there's other times that you need to be the follower.
Oh.
And I appreciate we have such a learned congregation that when we're in Bible study and other opportunities, I need to remind myself to sit there and listen, because I learned so much from some of these people that are so much more knowledgeable about the Word than I am, and their backgrounds and viewpoint. So I've appreciated so much that I've learned from so many of our people over the years. And as far as the congregation goes, growing up in town, my parents knew Pastor Feeney very well.
Okay.
And so we've known all the ministers that have been here throughout the history of St. James, and what a blessing their ministries have been. And so we thank you for your ministry, and we continue that another blessing in the future that will be taken care of and provided. But, again, we just look at so many of the people we know, friends and family members and relations we've known for so many years, have been such wonderful models for us, and we appreciate and thank them, the good Lord, for them.
Sure. So what do you see, what would you like to see for St. James' future?
Well, I'm excited about expanding our reach in the county. If we think we can, if God is leading us to another campus. In Gas City, we just had the article in the paper yesterday about Gas City is growing.
Yeah.
They've just annexed 600 more acres.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was. So it does seem like our county is growing in that area, and that we know there's not a Lutheran church in that area, even all the way over to Blackford County. So it does seem like, if God opens up those doors. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
We both taught in Gas City.
Oh, okay.
At Mississippi at one point in our career. Yeah.
Well, I think, I certainly agree with that. And I think, again, politically and culturally, throughout our lives, we've seen a lot of different ups and downs. But I think the Lutheran Missouri Synod denomination has been pretty rock steady in what we believe and what we teach. And I think we see a lot of people wanting to come back to that. I think there's some spiritual revival going on in our country now with things that are taking place. And I think we are in a wonderful position that we've never changed from those things. And people that are kind of, fly by the night and go with the changes and all that, I think they could be left out in the cold, because people, I think, are clamoring now for that certainty and that we have taught for years. So I think we are a real good point to continue to reach out and expand those to the outreach.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the things that have gone crazy culturally and even in Christianity have all been based upon emotions,
right?
And and an emotional reaction to perceived slights or whatever, and it seems that people are looking for something that's more solid, that hasn't changed, and our church body has been good at that. I heard somebody the other day saying, we have our differences among us in the Missouri Synod, but if you can compare us to most other Christian denominations, our differences are really small compared to what's going on in some other denominations, in that nobody's arguing about the divinity of Christ or Christ's resurrection in Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. Nobody's arguing about what communion is or what baptism is in the Missouri Synod. We may argue about a lot of other stuff, but we're not having doctrinal arguments like the other groups are, and that's a solid thing. And we're not an emotionally, not that we don't have emotions, we're not an emotionally based theology. It's what Scripture says, and it says that, of course, it affects us emotionally, but it's more about the truth than more about the truth being the truth than how we feel about the truth, I guess.
that is right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you're right. There may be a definitive change in see people come, and we've seen some people even in this church come in because of that, because they were just totally dissatisfied with what they saw on the outside, or they were tired of going to a church where they never knew what to expect on a Sunday, and so the liturgy has drawn them in, and the message of the gospel has drawn them in. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
And our grace, we are so blessed through our liturgy, through our strong doctrine, that our faith is a gift. And there's not one thing we can do. And our world is full of you have to do it yourself.
Right.
You have to do this and this and this to get anywhere. And that's not what we believe.
Right.
And we don't have to chase after that.
Right. That's good. So anything else? Anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to be asked, or anything we didn't get to? Or
what have you enjoyed the most about being here? Because it's been what? Has it been
4
years?
Yeah, a little 4 years.
Wow.
Oh, I've just loved it, because not only how we've been received with so much love and grace, but the energy of the congregation and its wanting to do something. And particularly, we are an older congregation. We have some younger, but we are an older congregation. But the older people here, I mean, like, they run the VBS program, which takes tons of energy, you know?
Right.
It's like, boy, you know, and I look at some of the people we have in their late 70s and 80s, and I'm going, man, I hope I'm getting around like that. And they all complain how, I'm tired. I'm so. It's like, yeah, you're getting around a lot better than I think I'm probably going to get around in my 80s. And I think I've enjoyed that the congregation is not looking at itself. So we're just going, well, we'll eventually all die off and close the doors. They really want to grow, and they don't just say that. They take steps to do it. I mean, they'll volunteer for programs. They'll do crazy things, and I kind of like crazy things. So far they're all going along with me. I don't know how long that's going to last, but let's see.
Well, and it's been a blessing to have you and Darla and the kids.
Oh, thank you.
Who aren't kids.
No, they're not anymore. I know. I'm dealing with that. They're going to be 20 here in a couple months. So it's like,
oh my goodness. Yeah, but it's been Charlie the because I see Charlie the most. It's been fun to see Charlie grow and move on with the next part of his life, and that's fun to see. And I hope you feel welcome.
Oh, we do
here and in the community.
We do.
You know, it's a different community than you came from.
Yeah.
But I think.
Well, I think the big difference in this community, and we got it when we first got here, was how we've been in the city, and so how everybody was so friendly here. I mean, even the people at the water department, as I'm going through like the drive-through when you pay your water, when you first sign up, oh, how are you doing? I have this long conversation with this civil servant, and I'm going, well, where does this happen? And then at Starbucks, the lady's going on and on. I'm going, there's cars behind me. You might want to get to them, but oh no, we're going to have a conversation. So we've really loved it. We grew up in a town this size in Idaho, and so we're used to more human. We're used to people looking at us when they talk, and people in the city don't. They just kind of ignore you for the most part, and yeah, we love it here.
There really is no anonymity here.
No, there's not.
So, that's what there were, and that's where there are some fun things that have happened over the years, where something may have been in the newspaper, and someone's pastor may have been playing ball at the Y.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were playing shirts and skins, and maybe somebody's pastor was.
They were scandalized.
Yeah. But we've got a small town and a small newspaper, and everybody sees those things. But yeah, I think our congregation. I perceive our congregation as being very friendly and welcoming to whomever comes, and I hope we don't pounce on people. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, here are some new people.
Yeah, new person. We'll have you in 5 committees by the end of the day.
Really? What do you want to be involved in? But yeah, we hope we can be gracious and let them get to know people. But I think we all love to have new people come. And
oh yeah.
Yeah, we do. We've had a wonderful. This has been this is I feel like this is a second home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what it always surprised me. All the class reunions we've gone to of John's, we always sit with all the kids he was confirmed with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know, of all your other friends, that's who they all congregate to one another.
Well, and that's,
Lutheran
we talk about,
confirmation.
growing up and different phases of your life. So now at my stage of my life, the people you still have commonality with are the ones that were on that same faith walk with you.
Sure.
That you see as a teenager, this is going to be my best friend and my buddy, and 20 years later, you have nothing in common with them.
Right.
But if you have your faith in common, life goes different directions, but you still have that relationship with them because you share that. And I think that's a powerful message for, kids looking for answers and all the different, come back to the biblical truths.
Right.
That will hold you steady wherever you go, whatever you're dealing with in life. Those are the things that you'll share the rest of your life. So you're right. That's a good point that, when I run into people, and then you can pick up. You haven't seen them for 25 years, and you still have those same relationships with them because their faith is held steady for them in those situations.
Right. That's very true. That's how some of my friendships are too. And that, I have a friend I've been friends with for 48 years, and both of us are Christians. He's Pentecostal, but we've been friends since then. And
you forgive him anyway.
And he forgives me. Yeah, he's a little excitable and I'm a little boring, I guess. And so he. But
does the Spirit move you?
But we talk all the time. I mean, and over Facebook and stuff like that. And so we connect with each other. We're best man at each other's weddings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
We live across the country from one another, but still. So.
That is fun.
Yeah. Well, anything else?
I don't think so.
No, I think that's good. We appreciate the opportunity to visit with you.
Well, I'm glad you guys came in.
Our pleasure.
Well, thank you for joining us for this conversation, the 75th anniversary, and we will see you next time. Peace out.
Walking these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for life, voices true. St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call. That is what we do at St. James, breaking chains, singing new names, pushing through the night, feeling small, seeking the answers stall, windows of gray, stained with hue. Shines through. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call. That is what we do at St. James, breaking chains, singing new names, heartbeats pounding, truth revealed in the silence, wounds are healed, faith in motion, spirits move. In this place we find our groove. In the dark streets, hope we find, unity glowing, love unbind. Hands reaching out, lift lifting high. In St. James, we never die dark streets, hope we find, unity glowing, love unbind, hands reaching out, lifting high. In St. James, we never die.